Some mysteries are written in fire, blazing, brutal, impossible to ignore. Others are whispered through cold winds and silent stones. But then, there are those etched deeper than fire or frost, in scorched earth, in unanswered questions, in shadows that never quite lift. This is one of them. A woman with no name, her face burned beyond recognition, her fingerprints scrubbed from memory, her identity stripped away like ashes in the wind. She appeared from nowhere, she left no trace, and she died alone, in a place the locals already feared, a place they call Death Valley. This isn't just a mystery, this is a riddle wrapped in flames, buried in snow, and sealed with silence. This is the case of the Isdal Woman. It was a Sunday, November 29th, 1970. The sky above Estland, the ice valley, just outside Bergen, Norway, hung low and grey, like a lid on a silent world. The wilderness there is cold, rugged, and steeped in unease, long feared by locals, whispered for generations. A place once known as Death Valley, for the countless suicides that had taken place on its desolate paths. That afternoon, a man and his 2 young daughters were hiking one of the remote trails that carved through the valley's rocky terrain. As they moved between jagged boulders, something stopped them cold. Smoke, or what might have been, the last ghost of it, curling faintly in the wind. Then they saw it, nestled awkwardly in a clearing between slabs of stone, a body, charred, twisted, blackened, almost beyond recognition. The figure lay on her back, arms frozen in a strange, almost defensive position, as if shielding her face from some final, searing blow. Her skin was scorched, hair singed. The smell of burned flesh lingered in the air. Around her, the traces of a fire, but not the kind meant for warmth. Nearby lay an empty bottle of St. Halvard liqueur, a pack of sleeping pills, and what had once been a passport. Now little more than a melted relic. There were no signs of a campfire, no matches, no lighter, no answers. Whatever had happened here, it was no accident, and for Norway, this was not just a tragic discovery, it was the start of one of the most chilling and perplexing mysteries the country would ever face. This was only the beginning. As police arrived at the scene, it quickly became clear. This was no ordinary death. The fire that had consumed her seemed unnatural. There was no firewood, no accelerant container, no obvious way she could have set it herself. Her flesh had been burned, but her clothes were only partially damaged, a sign the flames had been intense but concentrated. Stranger still, parts of her body were oddly clean, her front charred, her back untouched, as if she had been posed. A search of the area revealed more unsettling clues. Jewelry placed neatly beside her, not worn. A wristwatch also removed. Her fingertips lightly charred, yet her fingerprints were still recoverable. Enough to compare, but not enough to identify. When forensic experts examined her teeth, they found signs of extensive dental work, expensive procedures common in Central Europe, not Norway. It was their first real lead, but it only raised more questions than it answered. Days later, a breakthrough. Police traced luggage at the Bergen train station, stored in an unclaimed locker. Inside 2 plain, worn suitcases, belongings that belonged to the dead woman, but nothing inside brought her closer to the truth. All clothing had its labels cut off. Every prescription label was scratched away. Even the tube of the eczema cream had been deliberately scrubbed clean of the identifiers. Tucked between a hairbrush and a plastic bag of foreign coins, police found a notepad filled with cryptic codes, short, sharp entries. It wasn't random. Experts quickly realized the notes matched her travel movements across Norway. Cities, dates, hotels, her entire path mapped in code. But who kept records like this? Who moved under so many identities and left behind so little? Then came the aliases. Hotel records revealed a trail of different names, each tied to different nationalities, all connected to fake addresses, false passports, and stories that didn't add up. Sometimes she claimed to be Belgian, other times South African or French. She was seen wearing wigs, changing accents, and once meeting a man who vanished shortly after. Witnesses described her as elegant, composed, and secretive, but always alone, and always watching. She didn't just avoid attention, she erased it. Whoever the Isdal Woman was, she had spent her final days meticulously deleting herself from the world. And even in death, she left behind a wall of silence thick enough to swallow her name. The autopsy was the final hope, a last attempt to piece together who she was, and how she died. Her body had been severely burned, But what the fire didn't destroy, science began to reveal. In her stomach and bloodstream, investigators found traces of over 50 female sleeping pills. 20 empty pill sleeves had been scattered around her body. But even in her death, the contradictions piled up. Though the amount of barbiturates could have been lethal, her lungs contained soot, meaning she was still breathing when the fire began. The burn pattern suggested she'd been lying on her back, flames licking her front, a position no typical self-immolation victim takes. And there were bruises, subtle but unmistakable, on her neck and torso, signs of a struggle or restraint. Her face was unrecognizable. The fire had seen to that. And yet, investigators found no signs of accelerant, no way she could have ignited the blaze herself. Everything pointed to staging a carefully arranged tableau. Yet despite the mounting anomalies, the official conclusion came swiftly. Most likely a suicide. In a country known for its transparency, this sudden closing of the case only fed the fire. Whispers of conspiracy spread. Was it a cover-up? Had someone ensured she would never be identified? The local press dubbed her the Isdal Woman, after the icy valley where she was found, a haunting title for a woman with no name, no country, and no past. And so the authorities moved on. But the story refused to fade. In fact, it was only growing colder and deeper. Who was she? Some speculated that she was the spy. It was the height of the Cold War. Norway was a NATO country. Bergen was home to secret military testing, radar bases, and naval facilities. Could she have been a Soviet or Israeli spy? A few witnesses claimed she spoke fluent French and German. Others said she met with strange men. The fake passports, the frequent hotel hopping, classic espionage. Some were convinced it was a murder in disguise of suicide. The scene was too neat, too calculated. Police found gasoline traces, a strange position of the body. No matches or lighters were found. How did she start the fire? What if someone wanted her to be silenced? Some said she was a troubled soul escaping the past, perhaps running from something or someone. A woman with no identity, seeking peace, choosing to vanish in the most dramatic way possible. But one thing is clear. Someone, maybe multiple people, didn't want the world to know who she was. In recent years, the mystery resurfaced. A podcast by the Norwegian public broadcaster, NRK, reignited public interest. Forensic experts analyzed her teeth and jaw and found clues in the isotopes. The data pointed to a childhood in Central Europe, likely around the French-German border. A new digital facial reconstruction was made. Her identity, still unknown. In 2016, the police quietly reopened the case, but with every new test, the answers only grew colder. She traveled the world under false names. She erased every trace of who she was, and in the end, she died alone. In a remote valley, her secrets cremated by fire and silence. Was she a spy, a runaway, or someone whose story was never meant to be told? We may never know who the Isdal Woman really was, but she remains a shadow burned into the snow. You've been watching Gleaming Mysteries. If this story left a chill in your spine, subscribe for more forgotten puzzles, untold tales, and the enigmas that time tried to bury, because the truth is never far behind the strange.